Welcome back, everybody, to the 2-on-1 Fast Break podcast. It's the NFL Week 13 edition and also our special Thanksgiving edition. Dan, gotta ask you, what's your favorite part about Thanksgiving?
Watching the Eagles beat the Cowboys.
An annual tradition, if there ever was one.
My favorite thing about Thanksgiving is the night before Thanksgiving.
So you're a big the Thanksgiving Eve bar scene guy.
I am.
Okay. What about the meal itself? What food do you look forward to the most?
I'm on the record. Thanksgiving is the most overrated holiday that ever existed.
How?
The food is mediocre.
The food? You're going to the wrong place, sir.
I will eat stuffing, and I'll eat mashed potatoes, but I would much prefer deli turkey than the carved turkey that people eat on Thanksgiving.
That's ridiculous.
I'm aware. It's an unpopular opinion.
You know, I feel like we need to have an hour-long podcast just to discuss whatever trauma you had as a child that would make you think such things. But unfortunately, we don't have time for that. We got to get to some NFL talk.
Oh, man.
So let's dig into your Week 12 picks real quick for everybody out there. You went 2-2.
Sufficiently average.
And that's better than sufficiently bad.
That's true.
So 2-2 in the week, with also an open teaser winning for you. You're now up to 19-25 on the season. Looking for a spot. Sooner or later, you're gonna start gaining some ground, but at the very least, you're not losing ground. So that's always something.
Yeah, way to look on the bright side.
Yep, that's what we do. So one of your wins last week, you had the Thursday night game. You liked Oakland plus 7.5. And they looked really good earlier on, and although KC really made a game of it towards the end, Oakland still came on top for their first win of the year, winning 24-20. Dan, I think we pretty much called how this would play out, but any last thoughts on that game?
Absolutely. It was a hangover game for Kansas City after a big victory. Oakland, it could sniff that it was one of their only chances all year to win a game, and go figure, the young physical specimen running back who they hadn't played all year, they decided to give him the ball a couple times, and look at what happens.
He gets concussed.
He gets concussed, which is why he hasn't played all year now. But Latavius Murray was a big part of the bet. I don't even know if we discussed him that much.
I brought him up.
Yeah, but that was a big part of the bet. The hangover effect was a big part of the bet. And we talked about the Raiders getting the straight-up victory, which they did, but we just took the points to be safe. It was never really in doubt, although I gotta say, when Oakland was driving with the ball down 3,
it was kind of in doubt when the Chiefs took the lead in the fourth quarter.
Yeah,
there was some doubt there.
Well, when Oakland was driving with the ball down 3, even though we had 7.5, I kept on saying to myself, "This is the Raiders. David Carr's throwing a pick six here.
There's a pick six coming." In much like in week 4,
the Jets game, the Jets Broncos
and the Redskins.
Yes,
they both had it to get whatever the reverse of the backdoor cover is.
And in the fourth quarter, we were in that state where we didn't get, it'd be awesome if the Raiders win the game for them, but we didn't care. We just wanted the time to end.
Yeah. I actually was kind of happy that KC won without covering for my my confidence pool leagues.
There you go.
So everything came up roses last Thursday. All right, so that was one win for you. Let's move on to a loss. That was the total that you liked in Week 12. That was Indianapolis, Jacksonville. The line was 51. You liked the over. Didn't even come close as Indianapolis won handily, but only by a 23-3 margin. And kind of my fear came to fruition as the Jacksonville offense just couldn't get anything going. And, obviously 3 points. Bortles probably his worst outing of the year. Denard Robinson couldn't even get anything going in the running game after he had a few really good weeks prior to that contest. So, Dan, anything to take away from that one?
Yeah, it was very clear last week when we discussed the game that you didn't agree with the play, and pretty much everything that you said happened. Not only did the Jaguars not do their end, I thought they would get some garbage time touchdowns, but the Colts didn't even do their end. It seems like teams go into the Jacksonville games and they feel like it's okay to have that last shot the night before at the bar because they're just playing the Jaguars the next day, and then it takes them a half to get into the game. So
not really going in up for the game or bringing their best effort. And the Colts, they had a few good drives early on and had to settle for field goals.
That's the worst.
And then that kind of just snowballed with Jacksonville not scoring, and then the Colts didn't have to keep their foot on the pedal offensively. And
Jacksonville had 2 red zone opportunities in the last quarter to cover the spread. we weren't involved in that, so it doesn't really matter to us. But people who had Jacksonville, like, that's why you don't bet on Jacksonville.
Right. Or do you?
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing.
I wanted to see if you pick up on that.
All right. Yeah, I'm right there with you. So that was a loss for you. Your second win in Week 12 was the Seattle game. They defeated Arizona 19-3. We talked about Drew Stanton going into the tough place to play there in Seattle, and he certainly didn't look good. The Cardinals defense looked pretty good, and the only touchdown they allowed for the Seahawks offense was late in the game, but they just couldn't get anything going offensively, and that's pretty much what you were looking for right now.
Exactly. We were talking about this last week, that it was more of a fade of Arizona in this situation than it was having a ton of confidence in Seattle. Seattle only scored 19 points, but it was just a very clear spot where you could tell Drew Stanton was going to have trouble putting points on the board. Larry Fitzgerald also didn't play, so that helped out as well.
Which we kind of suspected he might not when you made that pick to begin with.
Jerron Brown dropping touchdown passes in his hands helps as well.
Always helps.
Arizona missing field goals also helps. This is one of those. I compared it to the Philadelphia-Green Bay game. Obviously, it worked out nothing like that. It wasn't a crazy blowout, but it was in the fact that it's a good team in a terrible spot. And sometimes, no matter how much talent you have, Arizona's good no matter who's their quarterback. But sometimes, no matter what, you just get into a bad spot where it's just not your turn to win a week.
Yeah, and not often that you can cover 6.5 points when you only scored 19, but we saw that happen.
They almost covered the spread without scoring a touchdown.
Yeah, and they would have.
Yeah.
They didn't really need that touchdown, so just an impressive bounce-back performance from the Seattle defense, and maybe something to look forward to, or not look forward to, but look at going forward with the struggles that the Arizona offense might have. Actually,
more foreshadowing.
Actually, went out and signed Michael Bush this week off the days of running backs past list. That I don't know what those guys do when teams aren't having them off their roster. They're just working out at camps and bagging groceries. But
I didn't even see that they signed Michael Bush.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's good. Coach Wisenhunt there talked about him being an effective guy around the goal line.
Was Andre Brown not available?
Is Andre? No, I don't.
Dennis Johnson not available?
No, none of these guys were their first choice. They went Michael Bush.
We could go.
There's no looking back.
I really wish that we had an hour to burn. We could just talk about other old running backs who aren't in the league anymore, who they could have signed.
Yeah, we'll combine that with your why don't you love
okay card. We're gonna give a bonus podcast next week. Why Thanksgiving's overrated and random running backs.
Subtitle Dan's Crazy.
Yes.
All right, so that was your second win. Your second loss in Week 12 was the San Fran game. You liked them -9. They did win 17-13 over the Redskins, but obviously that 4-point victory not enough to cover the spread. Dan, I just don't believe in San Francisco. If you can't get it done against the Redskins, I mean, I know they won, but the offense continues to look awful.
They looked awful against the Giants the week before.
Yeah,
Eli Manning throws 5 interceptions, and they turn it into 16 points.
It's just, at this point, there's nothing to believe in as far as that offense goes, and with all the injuries they have defensively, they're doing an admirable job still keeping this team in playoff contention.
At this point, the best thing for us gamblers is for them to get into the playoffs so we can fade the heck out of them.
Yeah, I would really love to see a rematch of that Packers-49ers playoff game and see what the defense can cook up to stop Kaepernick this time around. I think it would be a little bit different result.
I think we're getting if that game's in Lambeau, that's got to be a 7.5 point spread.
Yeah, at least I would think, given that Packers are 3.5 over New England this week, who has won how many games straight and is just dominating everybody in the league right now, and they're underdogs in Lambeau this week. So 49ers aren't even in that same class.
No, they're not in the same class at all. This team stinks. We correctly predicted that Washington stinks.
Yep.
And if you told me how many points they were going to score in the game, I would have tripled my bet.
And you would have lost triple.
I would have.
Can't believe in the Niners right now.
Niners.
But yeah, Washington at this point, they're going to Colt McCoy. And if your answer is let's turn to Colt McCoy, I don't know. Want to know what the question is.
Question is, what do you do when your season is completely done?
What do you do when your coach hates your starting quarterback and wants to get rid of him as quickly as possible?
That's a mess.
Yeah, complete mess. So for all those franchises out there or fans of teams that haven't had the best of season, at least you can look at Washington and think things could be worse. All right, so that was your 2-2 slate. You had one other play in Week 12. That was to open a new 3-team teaser with the Eagles going down to -1. Not only did they cover the teased line of -1, they covered the actual spread of -11 as they won 43-24 against Tennessee. Dan, the Eagles' defense and special teams continues to get it done this year, don't they?
It's so weird watching these games because they keep on getting these return touchdowns, which you have to admit, as much of an Eagles fan as you are, they're fluky. You absolutely cannot continue this pace of interceptions and punts and kickoff returns that they're getting
it's
for a
just
touchdown.
It's not a sustainable thing.
But at the same time, this team has yet to play a great game, and they're still putting up 30 to 40 points every week, and they're still winning.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
The only great game they played was when Sanchez had his first start against Carolina, and he didn't turn the ball over.
That was a great
game. And we saw that they absolutely dominated, and that's the difference between the team when the offense is firing on all cylinders and not making those 2 to 3 dumb mistakes every game that they do in every other contest. And when that gets ironed out, it's a completely different unit. So
this team attempted 6 field goals on Sunday. If they could turn a couple of those into touchdowns, they would have flirted with 60 points.
Yeah, and it didn't even seem like the offense was just was having that great a game.
Exactly.
It was just the special team scoring, the defense putting them in a lot of great situations with the turnovers and getting after the passer and causing just good field position left and right.
Hey, you got to beat Dallas this week.
Yep. So
we can blow smoke up the rears all we want to, but
you gotta win. You play Dallas twice in the next 3 weeks. You gotta at least split with them. Is basically what it comes down to.
At least split, and winning this game would be huge.
Winning this game would certainly put them in the driver's seat. They would then have the tiebreaker. They would have a significant edge in the divisional records, which is another the next tiebreaker, and obviously they'd be then an extra game up.
Right.
In terms of a win-loss. But more importantly, from a gambling perspective, that opened kept your 3-team teaser open for you, which, as we look ahead to Week 13 now, you're going to add another leg to that. So your second leg of your open 3-team teaser is going to be Indianapolis, getting them down to a pick'em. They're currently at -10, and they're at home against the Redskins. So
self-explanatory. We just talked about how bad the Redskins suck.
We talked about how bad the Redskins have been playing. They're now turning to Colt McCoy, and aside from his one game in Houston this season when everybody was all over his jock on Monday night, the Monday night game.
Yeah.
Or was it Dallas?
It was Dallas.
Dallas. I knew it was in Texas. It was Colt McCoy's return to Texas, yeah. But Dallas. So that's I don't think that's going to be enough with the Colts at home, and they didn't really have the best effort against Jacksonville last week, despite their win. So I'd look for that offense to have a little bit more of a productive outing this week.
And as poor as their offense looked against Jacksonville, they covered a 14-point spread anyway.
Yeah.
This team's 8-3 against the spread, and I'm taking 10 points off the spread. So
the team straight covers against bad teams. They're a bad team annihilator.
Absolutely.
So getting them to pick them at home, that's a no-brainer.
And I can't wait to bet on New England when they face off in the playoffs this year.
Exactly. So Indianapolis teased down to a pick 'em. That's your second leg of your open 3-team teaser. Now we're going to move on to your full plays for Week 13. The first one, we kind of alluded to this earlier, but you got a home dog in the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Nobody bets on Jackson. What? That's why you don't bet on Jacksonville, was my exact words from earlier.
Exactly. So here we are, betting on Jacksonville.
Yes, we are.
They're +3 at home against the Giants. Dan, I got a feeling this has a lot more to do with the Giants than it does with the Jaguars.
Absolutely does. This is one of those. We hit last week on a hold your nose play with Oakland, and we're going back to the hold your nose plays. First off, the line is 3 right now. A clear attempt to get everybody on the Giants.
Yeah, if it was any higher, it would be a stay away. But
there are less people who agree with me about Thanksgiving than have bet on Jacksonville so far this week.
And even less that have bet on Jacksonville successfully this season.
But this is definitely a spot. Look, ESPN showed Odell Beckham's catch all day on Monday and failed to even mention the fact that the Giants completely choked the game away in horrible fashion.
No, it was in the scroll on the bottom.
Well, it was
it had the score. So
also, Giants lost.
yeah.
And while Odell Beckham Jr. is becoming a guy who I'm not looking forward to playing for the next 10 years, as an Eagles fan, the team stinks. And after last week, they really went all out. They really tried to win a huge game against a division rival and failed. That's the kind of thing that just like puts the hole in the balloon and deflates it. Everyone's done. These guys don't want to go to Jacksonville. They don't want to be inconvenienced to play.
Nobody wants to go to Jacksonville.
Well, nobody wants to. Even players who are free agents don't want to go to Jacksonville.
Even when they had the Super Bowl there, people are like, "Oh, why is it in New Orleans?"
But this is one of those games where Jacksonville's young players, young players don't try to tank. People don't understand that sometimes. They think all these teams are trying to lose. Like you could have organizations with a losing mindset, but these young guys, they're competitive. They see this as a chance to win, just like Oakland saw it last week as one of their chances to get a win. Jacksonville's going to see that this week, and I think they come away with an outright victory against the Giants.
Odell Beckham Jr., not a guy you want to see as an Eagles fan, but definitely a guy I want to see on my Dynasty Keeper League. So I've been really happy with his production lately, but even outside of him, that the Giants team just, yeah, you're right. That was a very deflating loss for them last week. Going on the road now, it's pretty clear that their season's over. A lot of those veteran guys on the team, they can't have the same mindset that they had a few weeks earlier when they were maybe still in the hunt. And the line's just, as you said, the line's super fishy. There's really no reason that Jacksonville should only be 3-point underdogs against anyone based on the way they played this season.
Although the way that this season's been going, New York wins by 24.
Yeah, the home dogs have not treated you well, that's for sure. But
keep going back to them. They're my bread and butter.
Maybe that's why you hate Thanksgiving so much. Your bread and butter doesn't.
My bread and butter
treat you well.
My bread and butter ends up being Oakland and Jacksonville.
Yeah, you gotta find a new.
Couple Tampa Bays in there.
You gotta find a new bakery. All right, so that's your first full play. Week 13 is Jacksonville +3. We'll go to your only favorite that you like for Week 13, and that's Pittsburgh. They're at home -4.5 against the Saints. Dan, New Orleans just does not want to win their division.
New Orleans stinks, and it's time that people start acknowledging that. There have been way too many, like every week, people in the media are saying, this is the week that they're going to put it together. I think almost everyone picked New Orleans to beat Baltimore on Monday Night Football.
I did not.
It's very good on your part. But this team is just not good. They're missing a couple key pieces. Drew Brees isn't getting any younger. And this game isn't even at home. This game is outdoors in Pittsburgh, a known unfriendly place to play. And I just think that Pittsburgh only has trouble with bad teams.
Yeah, they're really good against good opponents.
They're good against good teams. They're just really bad against the bad teams, which...
But how does that vote? We just said New Orleans is a bad team.
Because they're not the level of bad that we're talking about in the other...
They're not viewed as bad.
No, it's cool. Cause you actually make a cool point. Like, when you say the Saints are terrible, that doesn't mean they're on the level of the Jaguars or the Raiders. It just means for what we expect the Saints to be, they're terrible.
They're also 4-7. It's pretty terrible.
The 4-7 is pretty terrible. They're in a tie for the lead of the division, only losing because of a tiebreaker, but...
Carolina just lurking.
That's been
3-8-1.
It's almost like we shouldn't even talk about it anymore because that's just been such the narrative for a couple of weeks now. Is how bad that division is.
It's a really interesting narrative, though.
It is, absolutely.
All right, so back on this game, though, the Steelers coming off a bye. New Orleans, one of the worst run defenses in the league. Their Steelers are all in with Le'Veon Bell. They released Blunt. And by
all in, you mean there's literally one other running back on the roster?
Yeah, they have Dre Archer.
Dre Archer's the only...
more of a scat back guy they want to line up in the slot. So Bell's going to get 25, 30 carries this game, and he's been one of the most effective runners in the league this season, if not the most effective behind DeMarco Murray. So against that Saints run defense, it's going to be a field day. And if they want to stack 8 guys in the box, sure, they got Antonio Brown having arguably the best season of any wide receiver this year.
And if the Saints don't have the stigma of being the Saints, a team that for the last decade has been considered a pretty decent team, I think this is a 6 or 7 point line.
Yeah, there's certainly some public credibility playing into the line just based on historic performance by the Saints and not having to do with the team they put on the field this season. So I agree, Steelers coming off a bye against that awful Saints defense. I think the Steelers should win this one, and I think they should cover 4.5. All right, so that's your second full play for Week 13. Another home dog you like is something we alluded to again, and that was fading Arizona as you like the Falcons +3 at home against those Cardinals.
I sure do. I like a team that... I like to get into the head of teams sometimes. Atlanta lost last week. Their season was over.
You're like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Like, exactly.
You want to
I
incept yourself.
I've incepted to the degree of 19 and 25 this year.
You might have got lost. You might have lost your token.
All right, so Atlanta lost their game last week, and New Orleans has a home game Monday night. They think their season's over. New Orleans wins that game. They go a game up in the division, and all of a sudden it looks like, all right, New Orleans is finally going to make a run. New Orleans loses Monday night, and it's almost like Atlanta now has a new lease on life. Now, granted, I hope to God that this game does not come down to a last-minute drive in which Mike Smith has to clock manage, because then we're in deep trouble.
It's been beaten to death at this point.
It has.
This week, but it's just ridiculous how bad Mike Smith is in late game situations.
But I do think that this is a veteran team. They're at home against Arizona, who, Drew Stanton has done an admirable job, but generally a backup quarterback's job is to get you through 3 or 4 games if the starter gets hurt. When it gets more than that, which it is now, there's actually a lot of tape on Drew Stanton. There's a reason he's not a starting quarterback. I think having him in there significantly does take value away from Arizona. And I think they're on the road again in a dome. We don't even know about. I assume Larry Fitzgerald will be back, but we don't know that for sure.
We don't know for sure.
Andre Ellington's been struggling since Carson Palmer went down.
He's been struggling all year, to be honest. He's been dealing with that heel injury, and he has a knee injury as well. He hasn't had a good yards per carry average the entire season. That whole running game is one of the worst in the NFL.
And it's just actually scary if you look at it. If you look at Arizona's remaining schedule, it's very, very hard, to the point where they might not win another game all season after such a great start. And you almost kind of feel bad for them because they are a good team. They've had a lot of injury issues and a lot of bad luck. But I kind of think that last week was the start of a real slide. I think Atlanta's going to take care of business at home.
See, here's the one thing that is a stay away from me. Atlanta has yet to beat anyone not in their division. They're 4-0 in their division, and they're 0-7 outside of it.
I understand that, but do you really think there's
0-7.
Do you really think that there's a difference? Do I
think there's a difference between the teams in their division and the Arizona Cardinals?
No, but when you're saying division, you're just implying because the division's so terrible, right?
Yes.
All right, that's fine. I thought you were just implying that
they don't get up for NFC South games. That's what I'm saying.
You're just saying because the teams in the division are crappy.
Yeah, they're all awful.
Fine, I can buy that. I also think that Arizona's in a really bad spot right now. They're trending downwards, and I'll take a field goal with the home underdog here. But at least I understand what you're saying now.
Yeah. I don't know if I can fully get on board. I just think the Cardinals' pass rush against that tattered Falcons offensive line is going to give them trouble all day, and I don't see how they can really put up points. It's not going to be the typical Falcons in the dome offensive outburst that you see from time to time. The Cardinals' defense is much too good for that. So yeah, I see where you're coming from, and definitely getting 3 points is very helpful. I don't think Cardinals are in a position to run away with this game with Stanton and the way their offense is playing, but I just wouldn't be really confident in the Falcons.
And one more thing I'll add is that the Cardinals, even when they win games, they're not really a team designed to blow other teams out. So even if the game doesn't go the way I see it going, the back door will probably be open.
Gotta love when the back door's open. All right, so that's your third play. And finally, your last play is yet another home dog, as you like Kansas City getting 2 points, also at home against the Denver Broncos. So Dan, probably not the side a lot of the public is going to be on. Why don't you talk to us about why you like the Chiefs here?
We've discussed the zigzag theory in the past. Kansas City goes from big win to really, really bad loss against Oakland, and now they have a huge game. The last time they were in a spot like this was against the Patriots, and they beat the Patriots pretty badly. And quite frankly, Denver right now has problems.
They do. Yeah, they're facing some injury issues, both at running back, and it's unsure if Julius Thomas is going to be back this week. Got a few injuries along the lines. and they really haven't looked good. They haven't, even when they've won recently, they haven't blown teams out like we saw earlier in their season.
Exactly. And we got Arrowhead in effect. I do think Arrowhead has a lot of home field advantage for the Kansas City Chiefs. And of course, it stinks to be betting against Peyton Manning and that offense. But this is one of those road games, one of those spots that I like to fade.
Yeah, it's certainly one of those spots. As you just mentioned, going against Peyton Manning, especially against the Chiefs defense that just lost one of their best players in Eric Berry, who is believed he might have lymphoma.
They're going to win it for Eric Berry, though.
It could be a rally cry situation. You really don't know how that will impact them. You do know not having him on the field is going to be a negative for that defense. And but yeah, as I said, the offense is going to be missing a few pieces. So it's not the Broncos team we became accustomed to early in the season. It's just I don't think the Chiefs are a team that is going to run away with this game based on that's just not the style of football they play. They don't get up on teams by a lot. They don't have a dynamic passing attack. Still looking for that first wide receiver touchdown this season, which
one of the craziest stats I've ever.
It's incredible. It's week 13 now.
Come on, Junior Hemingway, step up.
Yeah, and Dwayne Bowe's actually looked okay in recent weeks. He's getting some yards, but still no touchdowns. But so it's probably going to be a close game, and I hate betting against Peyton Manning in something I think is going to be a close game. Would you feel confident if the Chiefs are up 3 points late in the game and maybe have to punt the ball away to the Broncos with like 4 minutes left?
I mean, it would suck. There's not. I would hope that the crowd would get up and the defense would step up there. But you're going against Peyton Manning. You can never be that confident. But basically, what it comes down to is I look for value, and I think that this game's a coin flip game. I think in terms of winning the game, it's a coin flip game. So I'll take the points when it's a coin flip.
Yep, and that's if everything was truly a coin flip and you're getting points, you're going to come out in the long run. So certainly the right side to be on if you're valuing this game correctly.
So it hasn't worked out too well this year, but we're going back to the home dogs this week. All home teams.
Riding the home dogs, all home teams. And just to recap that full slate, you got one more portion added to the 3-team teaser with Indianapolis down to a pick'em. Jacksonville +3, Pittsburgh -4.5, Atlanta +3, and Kansas City +2. All right, Dan.
We need a winning week. Let's get a winning week.
Winning week. Get back to 500 in a week or two. It's a couple big weeks. Let's have a great holiday. You can go out on Thanksgiving Eve.
Plan on doing that.
Drink your face off. Hopefully your Thanksgiving meal is a little better than you're expecting. I don't know how that's a problem.
Hey, you know what? I don't care. I'll have an Eagles-Dallas game on TV. I'll be a happy guy.
Yep, and hopefully the Eagles will come away with a win for us here in Philadelphia. And then we got our annual Pigskin Turkey Bowl on Friday.
We do.
Hopefully it's
flag football with the option of tackle.
Rough flag. That's how I refer to it. That's how real men play. So
next week we'll both be doing the podcast with casts on.
Yeah, you never know with a rough flag. Things can be out of hand. So yeah, we might be nursing a few injuries come next week, but it'll be all the sweeter with hopefully an Eagles win and some extra tallies in the win column for you.
Yes, sir. Good luck.
All right. So have a great holiday, everybody out there. Enjoy friends, family, food, and football. A lot of good apps this week. So have a good one, everybody.